Support for WUWM podcast comes from Hop Harvest and Vine and Good Harvest Market in Milwaukee, part of One Destination, combining farm-to-table dining, local craft beers, and organic groceries under one roof. More at goodharvestmarket.com.
Lake Effect brings you conversations about what's happening in Milwaukee and the people, places, and organizations that shape our community. This is Lake Effect Spotlight from WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.
Last week, President Trump approved $30 million in federal assistance for people impacted by devastating floods in August. That means residents in Milwaukee, Waukesha, and Washington counties whose homes or property were damaged by the floods may get some relief. One of those homeowners trying to rebuild is Wauwatosa resident Jessica Young. WUWM Eric Vaughn fellow Maria Peralta-Arellano spoke with Young the day after her home was flooded. She joins us once again to explain what the last month has been like for her family.
So the last time we spoke, it was about a month ago, and you kind of detailed the destruction done in your basement, but also the events following after. You guys were staying at a hotel, you had your son, and you guys were still going through things. Insurance wasn't covering. What was your guys' journey like while you were trying to rebuild your house and making it livable?
Yeah, it's such a surreal whirlwind. We had started staying at a hotel. We didn't, initially we didn't know how long, I'm like, I don't know what this process takes. So we only booked, I think, 2 nights. And then by the time we tried to extend the stay, everything was sold out. And then we tried calling other hotels and everyone else was sold out. And so it was like the day that we had to leave our hotel, we were on the wait list. We had to try to figure out where to live. And we had friends offering and for us to stay places, so that's been so wonderful. And we're just so blessed to have people making those offers. But, especially with a toddler too, and trying to have some normalcy for him, space for him to play, but not, maybe get in the way of, if someone doesn't have kids and they have all the breakable stuff out, I don't want to impose on anyone. It was a quick fix. We ended up trying to stay at a hotel that was just, kind of made us uncomfortable. And so we ended up staying with a friend about 30 minutes away. And that, even though that was a longer drive, we were really lucky because then also we didn't have to pay for the hotel stay. So that was nice. I think I'm at a loss for words. I still am not fully processing, day to day what happened. But I would say that every day, there was somebody willing to help, like a family member, a neighbor. We had some people just driving around saying they're from nearby and how could they help. And we had some local businesses that were handing out gift cards or seeing if we needed cleaning supplies. I know that the Red Cross came through, gave us some stuff. And there was one neighbor who I think is on the board of the Tosa Farmers Market. And she was just taking notes of what each person needed and then trying to share resources with the other people. Because she came to my house saying that my other neighbor needed some help, people to actually bring stuff outside. And my nephew, who's in college, is college aged, was going to bring his football buddies to do some stuff at my house. But luckily we didn't need it anymore. So then he helped my neighbor. And it was kind of a lot of that every day, kind of forgetting house stuff and honing in on Elliot when we picked him up at night, and then the long drive to our friend's house, getting him to sleep, seeing, how you just kind of handling the emotional impact of that. And then bringing him to school every day and then going back to the house. And I felt like a project manager. I think sometimes I felt guilty because I was on my computer or on my phone when we were able to have a couple of friends come and help us with stuff or people in the community, because it was apply for FEMA, apply for possible American Red Cross funding. I had a friend who was so gracious and set up a GoFundMe, and there were offers of help. So it was trying to manage, say yes to anybody, right? And then trying to plan, when can they come, when can they help, this person's going to drop off a meal. I was trying to keep track of who to say thank you to and what to do. And so it was just, and trying to track, what are we throwing away? What did we get rid of? What are the necessities? Trying to plan for when my son can come back, hoping that the piles of stuff would be gone by the time we brought him to see the house, because otherwise he's seeing all of his toys, sad and dirty at the end of the road, and he's going to want them. it was really, really surreal. There were multiple days that the city blocked off roads so that all of the trucks could come and pick up everything. It was like a multiple truck. It was almost like a crane machine, like a toy crane game. They had like a crane that would pick up stuff from our yard and like put it over into the dump truck or the garbage truck. And it was all up and down the street. And like everybody, all of my neighbors, everyone was home. Everyone had to be. And just to look down and just see 10-foot well, maybe I'm being dramatic, like 5 to 7 foot piles of our lives out on our yards has been absolutely surreal. Now this week we just moved in this weekend. So it's been a few weeks of getting the stuff out, drying the house out, pulling all of the drywall and insulation and the door frames and the molding and just so many things that I wasn't even thinking. And then trying to make the floor that wasn't damaged, like the main floor, livable. So if we could come back home, we could. And that's been wild. I'm not trying to replace every single item because I can't financially and like sentimentally, all that stuff. I was able to go through some photos, and I would say we're kind of at the point now. We're at the point where everything's dried out. The antimicrobial stuff was done. The walls have been gutted where they need to be. We have someone replacing the flooring and kind of doing the thing in the basement with all the unfinished part of the laundry area had like paint bubbling up from the concrete floor. And so they're like fixing that. I had a friend donate their dryer to me. We had to order a new washer, and the heater, the furnace, the water heater, furnace, AC, all of those are back in. So it's like it feels slow because we just moved back in, but the amount of things that have happened in the last couple of weeks are crazy when you think about it, right? Just like a home remodel or like building a new house kind of that you weren't really planning on doing. So so everything's kind of gutted as if we're building it a bit from scratch. I started to go back to work. I would say I went back to work a little bit last week, and my husband's had to go back more full time. I'm sort of like, maybe 3/4 of the time doing what we can. It's going to be a little bit easier now that we have a shorter drive. We're back home and have a shorter drive to Elliot's school, but it's just been constant planning and not being able to think of anything else, really. I think the first time we did something not related to the house and fixing things was this last weekend, or it was Labor Day. We took my son and my mom to the zoo. And it was so refreshing to have like a fun, positive, family bonding time that wasn't, we've definitely had babysitters and other people kind of taking care of my son while we were doing stuff so that he wasn't in the danger zones. I think we really needed that time to sort of repair and come together and, make sure he has like a safe, fun space to reconnect with us. I think that isn't the house, because he's still, we've been here for a few days, and I picked him up from his cousin's house yesterday, and he's like, "Is the house fixed?" I'm like, "Oh, honey, it's gonna be a while." He's adjusting really, really well, but every day he's kind of like, "Hey," he's starting to ask the questions now. I think now that he's living in the house, like, how did water get in here? So I had to figure out like, how do you say this to us, like an almost 4-year-old? So they're not scared, but they know the logistics. It's been a lot. So trying to organize and trying to get back into life. Like I'm trying really hard to let go of my perfectionism and my like not jumping back into work 100%, or if I am, that I'm not putting too much pressure on myself, because it's a full-time job to be getting our house in working order, and that there's still just going to be kind of months of stuff. Like we're still finding glass in the yard where all of our junk was, so trying to make it a safe place for Elliot to play again, that there isn't, stuff like that in our lawn or on the street, nails, stuff like that. And for our neighbors too, like if we come across it when we're walking, we're picking up debris and trying to get it out of the street or where people could step on it. So it's been a lot of that, a lot of focusing on that, and then at least trying to do like an hour a day or like once a week where it's not something about the house, right? It's like playing or reading or seeing a family member not at our home. I think I might have to, I work from home, and so I think I'm going to have to start working at a coffee shop or something, because, looking at the chaos is a lot. when I have to work. So, I don't know. I'm still all jumbled up in my head, I think.
You had mentioned filling out something for FEMA.
I did. I filled out FEMA, right away because obviously I knew that could be a possibility. It wasn't a super difficult thing, but it was hard to I think list all of the things that were a loss, right? And I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe it'll be months from now. Obviously, it would be amazing if it was sooner. In the meantime, we're trying to get loans and trying to do the least amount of things. Like what are the necessities, because we don't want to be too crazy right now. And then hopefully, FEMA can come back and we can maybe pay off the loans.
From here out, what are some of the longer haul things that we need to get taken care of? And also just emotionally, are you expecting some lasting effects from this?
It's so funny, just even hearing a question of like, emotionally, mentally, how are you going to, what do you think? It makes me want to cry, because it's like, I feel like I'm still in, I don't know if it's fight or flight or action mode, right? Things aren't going to be done for my house to be fully functional, probably for a couple of weeks. And then I think, from there, it's like, it'll be amazing when like the dust settles and we can take some of the plastic dividers down and everything. But then it's like, well, we've already spent that money, but it will be wonderful to do some of the like the grading on our lawn to draw water away from the house. Not that helps in like 3 feet of water. I know that's not, but I just little things like that where I'm like, what do we do now? Is there any sort of preventative thing, waterproofing? I don't know, like sandbags that we could possibly help for if this happens again. And then possibly applying for flood insurance, which I don't know how it'll happen, if it'll happen, because again, my house wasn't on the floodplain. But it's like, get the house back to where there are contractors and people always in here, right? So that we can like live here and be here. And then, is there anything we can do to prepare, like get insurance, get anything like that? And then it's kind of living frugally, right? Like we're going to have these loans now. We have a lot more debt, in making this happen, I think. So it's trying to be frugal. And then I think after that is maybe when I'll start emotionally processing it. I mean, there's been bits and pieces here and there. When I left my friend's house, I had like 2 tears come in my eyes, because I was just like, how often do you get to live with your friend in adulthood, like 2 families together? That's nice. But then also like, oh, this is because of a big bad thing that happened. But then I had to get going, right? And I do have a therapist, which is great. But I have been talking to her about, I would say, one of the other tragedies in my life, which people deal with, is a parent passing. And the same thing kind of happened. You hit the ground running, planning the funeral, doing the things, grieving. And then like physically, my body would have, I didn't know where they were coming from. Panic attacks, insomnia, just your body processes the grief, processes the trauma. And I was just talking to my therapist about, I wonder what this is going to look like. Not that I want to worry about it now, but just making space for myself over the next year or however long that like things are going to happen in my body because I lived through this. What's my son going to be doing? Is he going to be afraid of rainstorms now? How am I going to be, trying to just pay attention and not ignore it, but try not to worry about what hasn't come yet. But also knowing that I think naturally when trauma and things like this happen, there's that kind of, there is something that happens, like your body does go through it and your mind goes through it and tries to process it. I'm lucky that I'm sad that I have a friend who's gone through friends that have gone through tragedy, but like specifically I have a friend who, went through Hurricane Katrina, and she's kind of been giving me tips and tricks of different things that she does in her house to prep, and the things that she's experienced just emotionally, and then in the aftermath, even now, So I think I feel blessed in the sense that I maybe can have someone like guide me through it.
That was WUWM Eric Vaughn Fellow Maria Peralta-Arellano, speaking with Wauwatosa resident Jessica Young, whose home was flooded last month. Residents in Milwaukee, Waukesha, and Washington counties are eligible to request FEMA assistance. You can do that at disasterassistance.gov or by calling 800-621-3362.
You can find more interviews like this one by visiting WUWM.com/Lake Effect. And while you're there, subscribe to the Lake Effect Spotlight podcast.
It's rare to find a podcast that can actually change your life. But when the show's called Life Kit, that's kind of the whole point. I'm Mariel Segarra. 3 times a week on the Life Kit podcast, we guide you through a topic we could all use help with, from personal development to healthy living to managing your dinero, with takeaways so you can start living what you learn right away. Escucha el Life Kit podcast from NPR.